Hey dudes, so today is gonna be another vlog day and I wanna go outside for an hour or two. I know, scary. And I also wanna try my new 50mm lens that I bought like 3-4 months ago and never used because I don't like to go outside. So that's what's happening today, but first I need to put on my YouTube hoodie. I'm almost ready. I can't really tell. The weather seems really weird outside. Okay, the second I decided to go outside, clearly it started raining and there's a f***ing storm outside, so we're just gonna delay it just a little bit and not chill at home for a while. So the rain has calmed down and I think it will give me enough time to get to the botanical gardens where I'll be on the roof and I can take some photos and test out that new lens that I have. Look, it's sunny now. Just so you know, when I'm gonna be talking to the camera, I'm using my 40mm Canon lens just because if I'm gonna film with the 50mm, I will look like this. Nobody wants that. So I'm gonna switch between lenses when I take some videos or b-roll or when I'm gonna take some photos. For example, like now. And this is how you get likes on Facebook. Our way to the waterfall, so we're like 2 minutes away from Botanic Gardens and it's super cold outside, so let's just go to that part of the trip. So I'm in the Botanical Gardens and it seems like I'm the only person here, which is kind of cool. My both lenses are kind of foggy, but we'll just walk around and see until they warm up. Okay, now I'm gonna switch back to the 50mm lens and try to take some photos and more b-roll videos. Okay guys, I don't know if you can hear me because of the wind, but it's raining again. It's a crazy storm outside. I went away from Botanical Gardens and I shoved my camera into the backpack, so I'm filming with my iPhone. The Botanical Garden was amazing, but now I have to get through the storm and have to go home through the rain. But I did get a lot of nice shots, so let's go home and see what did we get there. Okay, so we're back at home and we can continue the video from here. And no, I didn't film this part on a different day. Every YouTube photographer that I've ever watched always say that you need a 50mm Canon prime lens or a Nikon or whatever photo camera you're using. But a 50mm prime lens is something that you must have. So I also decided to up my photo game and get myself one of those 50mm prime lenses. Now, I already own 3 lenses and the Canon 50mm lens costs about $100. Maybe you could get a cheaper used one on eBay, but the camera lenses is one of those things that you don't want to buy used just because you don't know how the previous owner treated them. I know that for a real photographer, $100 for a lens is nothing. Their lens caps cost more. But for an amateur photographer like me, $100 for a lens seemed just a little bit too much, so I first wanted to try this Canon knockoff copy Yongnuo 50mm lens. There are 3 reasons why I want to try out this lens. The first one is I did not have a 50mm prime lens, and the 50mm focal length is just great for portrait photography. Now, I know that you can make a great portrait with any focal length if you know what you're doing, but that 50mm just has this pleasing and natural look that I like. The second reason is aperture. My Canon 24mm lens that I'm filming with now has aperture of 2.8. My old Soviet lens has aperture of 2.0, but it only has manual focus, and this baby has aperture of 1.8, and that means beautiful bokeh. And in normal people language, that just means that the background is blurred and very smooth, which looks really nice. And the third most obvious reason, this lens only costs £36, new, in a box, and I figured I could spare $36 for a new lens. What's the worst that could happen? If it's a complete shite, I can live with that. Or if it turns out that I really like it and it's a good lens and I like the 50mm focal length, I might invest in the original later. So I took it out for some test shots and this is what I got. Just so you know, all these photos and videos were taken with a Canon 60D. I can't compare this to the original 50mm Canon lens just because I don't have it. But I can compare it to my 24mm Canon lens just because I've been using that one for more than 3 years and I filmed most of my videos on that one. I had a lot of fun using it and it was interesting to play around with the different focal length and the smooth bokeh. One thing I instantly noticed is that the autofocus on this lens is a bit slower. So if you're trying to capture fast moving objects like cars or animals, until the lens figures out where to focus, your object might be already gone. Or on some occasions, it just couldn't figure out where to focus at all, so you had to use manual focus. When you do focus, it does sound a lot louder than my Canon Pancake lens, which already has the STM motor, meaning that it's already a lot louder focus than the more professional lenses. But when I was watching over the footage, you can either barely hear it focusing or you can't hear it at all. So most probably it will not destroy your footage. But if it does, you can just cut off the audio and add some music on top of it. Because most probably you're not gonna film anything super important with a 36-pound lens anyways. This is a prime lens, which means that it won't be able to zoom in and zoom out, so you will have to move around a lot more. But I only do have prime lenses just because prime lenses are more solid built than kit lenses. They will last you a lot longer, and even though it is convenient to have different focal lengths onto a one single lens, it does make photography kinda lazier. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think it's nice and quite important to be able to zoom in on an object when you can't physically get any closer. But the problem with kit lenses is that they can drop aperture as low as 1.8, which is the main reason I got this lens. I mean, when I say that prime lenses are more solid built than kit lenses, I wouldn't necessarily say it about this prime lens, just because it's a lot lighter than my Pancake lens, even though that lens is half the size. And listen to this. I don't think a lens should make that sound. It's very plasticky with plastic built instead of the Canon lens that I have. In general, it just looks and feels more cheaper than the original Canon lens. I won't deny that. But as a copy or a knockoff, they did a really good job, at least for the price. And now the aperture. The blur is what I came here for, and the blur is what I got. On the images that I took with the 1.8 aperture, the background is blurred very smoothly. It looks really neat because this lens has 7 blades in comparison to the original Canon lens, which only has 5. And the images look decent enough. Because the aperture can be opened as wide as 1.8, it means it is letting in a lot more light, which then means that I can take more photos and videos in darker conditions without using as high of an ISO, meaning that I can keep the good quality. The 2 places where I wouldn't use this lens is for my indoor videos or for my video blogs, because if I use this lens, it will be super zoomed in and the only thing you will see is my ugly ass face. If I would use the 50mm lens in my indoor videos, this is how close this would be. I could technically bring my tripod a lot further away, just have like a very similar composition for the shot, but now my microphone is a lot further away and now I have to yell, and that just sounds weird. So it's not the best lens for indoor videos per se. For vlogging and indoor videos, my 24mm lens does a great job, but this lens would be great first of all for any photography and if I want to make some bit more cinematic B-roll videos. I also wanted to mention that colors through this lens are decent as well. I used to love taking photos with this old Soviet lens that has 2.0 aperture, but the pictures always came out desaturated and without color correction on the computer, the pictures would be unusable. But any photos that I took with this lens could just be taken straight out of the camera and posted online. So the overall conclusion, a lot of YouTube photographers have shot on this lens in so many videos, and I get it. This is not a lens that every professional photographer will have in their bags ready to go. But it's not that bad either. I think this is a great lens for anyone who's just getting started in the photography and film world and just doesn't have enough money to get the real one yet. It does the job, the quality is decent enough for Instagram photos, and if you break it or if you just decide that this is not the lens for you, at least you're not losing a lot of money. So overall, I would recommend this lens to anyone who wants to try it out. It's definitely worth the 30 bucks and you get exactly what you pay for. I'm glad I took a chance on this one. I had a lot of fun using it and I'll definitely keep on using it until I have a need for a more professional lens. If you have any questions about this lens or any questions in general, leave them in the comment section and I will definitely reply. Or if you have this lens, and tell me your thoughts and your experience as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this review any useful, leave a like. If you want to watch any of my tech reviews, I'll leave a playlist right here. And if you want to watch any of my future videos, you could subscribe, I wouldn't mind. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!